Welcome to another Tracking Trends Report with Kristen Mason Coreas, owner of the Homes by Mason team. Today is Thursday, August 14th. We are halfway through August. In the lull of the summer, everyone's getting ready to go back to school. We go back to school so early these days, and this time of year is typically slow in our area anyway in real estate. I don't know what happens in other parts of the country always, but in Northern Virginia, August and December tend to be the slowest months here, and that does show through. Whoops, that's the end of my, let me go to the beginning, my bad. We were at the end of my presentation. Here's the beginning. The slide in the beginning looks like the slide at the end. All right, so mortgage rates did continue to decline. They fell to their lowest level since October of last year, and that did have an impact on purchase application activity improving. So we are at 6.58. I haven't seen a number that low in quite some time. That is below our monthly average and below the year-long average by just a touch. So that's good news for buyers, and that may bring more buyers out. In terms of national economic news, this is actually the same data that I had for you last week. So I don't have anything new here to share. As a reminder, unemployment claims jumped to their highest level since November 2021. That's a really long time ago. So high unemployment claims indicating it's harder for job seekers to find work. That may have an impact on our economy. That may influence the Fed to drop their rate, which would potentially decrease our mortgage rates even further. And that's the next, expectations for a September Fed rate did surge because of the job reports. Hiring has weakened. So we're seeing, and this is to be expected, right? I mean, this is all of probably as a result of a lot of the job losses and that we saw earlier in the year now coming to the front of the economy because some people were on severances and maybe didn't look for jobs right away and there was a lag. And so now we are seeing the impacts of that coming forth at this time. And Goldman Sachs warned that housing could drag on the economic growth in the second half of the year. Home buying has a really positive impact on the economy overall because when people buy homes, then they hire electricians and painters and flooring guys who go buy materials, landscapers buy materials, all of these things. So home improvement does spur economic growth overall. It's overall good for the economy. So if the housing market and purchasing of homes slows down, then economic growth may also slow down. That's what Goldman Sachs is projecting. And mortgage applications, as we saw, did grow 1% over the past week and up 18% from the week before. In the Mid-Atlantic region, which is Virginia, DC, Maryland, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Delaware, and New Jersey, inventory does continue to rise, being almost 24% higher than the same week in 2024. Now, despite rising inventory, median list price is still rising in the area, 5% increase from the same week last year. So that we would expect price to come down as buyer activity comes down. We have not yet seen that come through substantially in the data. Now, new contracts, we would also expect to increase with more supply. More homes to buy should translate to more contracts. We are not necessarily seeing that. In the larger DC metro area, the week over week data shows us that we're in mid-August. So showings were up actually 1%, which is slightly surprising. And then most other things are down. Purchase contracts essentially flat. Time to contract longer by 1 day at 33 days. That's a long time in our market. New listings are down by 6%. Median list price basically flat, and active listings basically flat. It's August, not a whole lot of activity is happening. Now, year over year, showings are up. There are more homes to view, so that makes some sense. Purchase contracts, however, down in this case, year over year by just under 2%. Median time to contract up by 8 days. Again, that 33 days is a long time for our area. We don't usually see things sit for that long, but these days we are. New listings up by 4% year over year, and median list price 7% over last year. So that price has not necessarily come down consistently, and active listings up by almost 31% year over year. Our hyperlocal data that we run for you for Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, and Falls Church, where we do most of our business, shows basically flat activity compared to the week before. In terms of new listings and new under contracts, we're seeing about the same number for the past few weeks, and that's pretty much on target with what the average is in terms of new listings coming on the market and new under contracts. Slightly less, a touch less, but basically on par. And this chart does not look like it is. Oh, sorry, 31. I thought we were at 31 days. I'm not sure what happened here. Let me double check over here. Yeah, I thought our average days on market, yeah, it's 31. So I'm not sure why that is not reflected here. But interest rates, again, continue to be stable. And in our area, our average days on market this past week was 31 days on the market. So this is the year over year change in supply and change in contracts. So we do have both more inventory and more contracts than we did last year. And the demand to supply ratio is hovering around 80% in the upper, 88%. So that's generally healthy. And so, yeah, almost all of the new contracts that came, or new inventory that came on, were eaten up by new contracts. So that shows some stability in our hyperlocal market. And then week over week data shows that we're basically flat, down a touch from the week before in terms of inventory and contracts. And that makes sense, being mid-August and things are slowing down. People are taking their final vacations and people are getting ready to go back to work. So we tend to have a bump in activity and in the market once we get into September. So we'll probably see that when we continue to track trends. So thank you for watching. If you ever want to have a conversation with me about how the trends impact you and your decisions, reach out anytime to 571-210-1866. Or you can email me at kristen@homesbymason.com, or click the link. There should be a link down below wherever you're watching this to get on my calendar. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.